You may be seated. For those who are just joining us, if you are one of our young heroes, our usher, President of the South Leeward Young Dems, Rowena Stevens, will take you to your seat at one of the tables at the front. Deputy Chairman of the New Democratic Party, Mrs. Lazar Gibson Duff, Mr. Fitz Bramble, he is the Honorable Fitz Bramble, he is the Member of Parliament, representative for East Kingston, former Senator, Senator K. Bacchus Batiste, other members of the executive of the New Democratic Party, our young heroes, relatives and friends, other invited guests, the Young Democrats, the New Democratic Party Young Democrats, a pleasant afternoon. We are here to celebrate youth, so you can't say good afternoon like that. A pleasant afternoon. That sounds more mid-central and more youthful. Thank you. As I listened to the national anthem a while ago, we heard about the little sister islands, those gems, the lovely Grenadines, our beautiful St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But I want to tell you this afternoon that we are sitting among gems of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Our young, outstanding Vincentians. And we have with us two brilliant, wonderful speakers who will also remind us of our heritage, our history, and tell us exactly why we should be proud to be Vincentians. On stage with me are Dr. Adrian Fraser, our own historian and author, and also Miss Nisha Hope, an educator and creative director. We also have on stage the logistics manager of the NDP Young Democrats, Mr. Andy Batiste, and the assistant secretary, Ms. Therese Oliver. I am Vakisha John, the president of the NDP Young Democrats. Without further ado, we are going to get right into our symposium. So I will introduce to you a speaker who doesn't need to be introduced to Vincentians anymore. We have somebody who has walked the walk and not just talk the talk about Vincentian heritage, about what it is to preserve our local history, and why we should cherish the ancestors that fought for our freedom. I am talking about none other than Dr. Adrian Fraser, and at this moment I want you to welcome him on stage.
Good afternoon, President and members, executive of the Young Democrats, officials, executive of the New Democratic Party, members, well-wishers, and others. I know that this afternoon is a difficult afternoon. It's the end of month, it's the end of the working day, and there's a lot of traffic on the street, which created a lot of problems. I want, first of all, to thank the Young Democrats for inviting me to be part of this symposium. And also the last of its March activities, which was celebrated under the theme, March Movements, Heritage, and Heroes. Now I want to start on a light note, and I will do so by reading a story. And many of you would have heard this before, but it is something which I go back to all the time, because on the issue of communication, communication is very important. And normally, when I speak, especially to young people, I start by asking them what they want me to speak about, because there's nothing worse than sitting in an audience and the person speaking about something you're not really interested in. But today has its own format. But this story is a very interesting one, and it's called the Wayside Chapel. An English lady, while visiting Switzerland, was looking for room, and she asked the schoolmaster if he could recommend a place to stay. He took her to see several rooms, and when everything was settled, the lady returned home to make final preparations to move. When she got home, the thought suddenly occurred to her that she had not seen a WC. Now, older persons will know what a WC is. It's British water closet. It's a toilet, but not in the house. It was usually away from the house in the garden, in the yard. So she noticed that she had not seen a WC, as it was called in England. So she immediately wrote a note to the schoolmaster asking him if there was a WC around. The schoolmaster was a very poor English student. He was from Switzerland. So he asked the parish priest if he could help him in the matter. Together, they tried to discover the meaning of the letters WC. And the only solution they could find for the letters was the Wayside Chapel in the community. The schoolmaster then wrote this beautiful note to the English lady. Dear Madam, I take great pleasure in informing you that the WC is situated 9 miles from the house in the center of a beautiful grove of pine trees surrounded by lovely grounds. Now, as far as she's concerned, from Switzerland, the WC is the Wayside Chapel. The lady is looking for a water closet. It is capable of holding 200 people, and it is open on Sundays and Thursdays only. As there are a great number of people expected during the summer months, I would suggest that you come early. Although there's plenty of standing room. This is an unfortunate situation, particularly if you are in the habit of going regularly and sitting. You will no doubt be glad to hear that a good number of people bring their lunch and make a day of it, while others who can afford to go by car arrive just in time. I will especially recommend that your ladyship go on Thursday, when there is an organ accompaniment. The acoustics are excellent, and even the most delicate songs can be heard everywhere. It may interest you to know that my daughter was married in the WC, and it was there she met her husband. I can remember the rush for seats. There were 10 people to a seat, usually occupied by one. It was wonderful to see the expression on their faces. The newest attraction is the bell, donated by a wealthy resident of the district. It rings each time a person enters. A bazaar is to be held to provide plush seats for all, since the people feel that it is a long-felt need. My wife is rather delicate, so she cannot attend regularly. It is almost a year since the last went. Naturally, it pains her very much not to be able to go more often, hoping to be of some service to you. So you can imagine the confusion in this lady's mind, who is anxious to know that there's a water closet, but hearing this explanation from, I'm not sure if she survived that or if she went to Switzerland. But it is an important issue where people are speaking English, but they're seeing and speaking about different things. Now, I intend to be very short, and because I think we are already late. Now, March is Heritage Month, with the focus on March 14th, National Heroes Day, when the nation is expected to celebrate the life of the first and only national hero, Chatelier, paramount chief of the indigenous people. Now we say Joseph Chatelier, but I don't know where the Joseph came from because the name was usually Chatelier, and I'm not sure how that came in, but his name was Chatelier. Now, the National Heroes Day, from the very beginning, I had some concerns about it. For one, not many people could meet the criteria for being a national hero. Besides, they have to be dead. And no, there's nothing wrong, there's no problem with this. It is my view, however, that it should have been part of a package that included a system of national honors. What do you do with people in all walks of life who make valuable contributions to the development of the country and who ought to be recognized when they are alive? You know, and this is why very often when they put out announcements asking for people to submit names for national heroes, you get a lot of weird names and so on, because people, it's really a statement by saying that these people need to be recognized, not as national heroes, but they need to be recognized. And so I thought that it was really badly done, that you should have combined those. And I should mention at this point that John Horn, when he was Minister of Culture, had actually done that, brought together national hero and a system of national honors. But as the political system goes in St. Vincent, once it was done by the party before, by someone before, then you know, it is totally neglected. And when I speak of a system of national honors, I'm speaking about ordinary people who have been making a contribution, whether as teachers, nurses, as sportsmen, as bankers, musicians. And I think also that in those categories should be one for an outstanding young male person and an outstanding female person. Because you must always bear in mind that when you look at the population, I think the present population figures show 111,000 or just over that. And of that 110,000, persons under 35 make up 65% of the population. So overwhelmingly, the young people are the ones who are dominant in the population. And when you have categories like that, that you don't single them out, then it's really doing a disservice to them. And I should also mention that regardless of which categories you come up with, young people would be able to fit into those, especially in this era of the digital technology, where we are seeing young persons making their mark not only in St. Vincent, but also outside of St. Vincent, competing with others on the international scene. Now, in doing that, you would also recognize youths who can serve as valuable role models. And what has happened, instead of putting this in place, what we are seeing now is an effort to have 4 more national heroes. And there wasn't a problem with Chatelier because very few people knew much about Chatelier. But once you bring the 4 persons who have been identified, there's going to be a lot of controversy. In fact, I've argued for a long time that Milton Cato should not be a national hero. I think that his period he gave us became, of course, prime minister, but his period was the most severe period in St. Vincent of oppression. And there's a lot of evidence to support that. The other point related to this is that we have not even done a good job with Chateaubriand. I am sure that not many of us know more about Chateaubriand now than we knew 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. There isn't even a monument of Chateaubriand. Why then are you going to put 4 more national heroes? A national hero is not something where you decide every 2 years you'd have a national hero. A national hero should come up to you. Somebody dies, and you say that person deserves to be a national hero. But to set aside times when you're going to try and identify national heroes, I think is not the way to go about it. Now, one of the discussions that has never really taken place is, what is a national hero? What do you mean by a national hero? I don't think that that discussion ever took place, or if it ever took place, not in any meaningful way. Today, with a crisis in our society, we hear people saying that we lack role models. And of course, a lot of emphasis, a lot of criticisms are made about the youth, about the young people. Now, the young people are the dominant factor in the population, but also what guidance, who are the role models for these young people? And I feel that if you institute a system of national honors and you put some emphasis on identifying young people, that you would have people in your midst who could act as role models, because you're seeing them, you're not hearing about them after they are dead. So there is a lot one can do there. You have at Dorchester Hill the obelisk to Chateaubriand. Now if you have March 14, and all of these are identified with Chateaubriand, when you have 4 national heroes, what is going to happen on March 14th? All of them is a celebration going to take place at the obelisk. How are you going to go about that? So it creates those kinds of problems too. The other thing too is that as far as the number of people are concerned, March 14th is about, some people might listen to what is happening at Dorchester Hill. But the big thing is to go north of the river to eat some of the dishes of the indigenous people. Would this continue? So you will have to figure out a way of dealing with 5 national heroes. Now, I want to just mention, because there isn't any time to go into any detail, but we have heard a lot about Chateaubriand and the struggles of the indigenous people against European colonization. Up until recently, the people north of the river were called Caribs. In Dominica, you had a Carib village. In Dominica today, that Carib village is the Kalinago village. The word Carib was started by Columbus, and it had the connotations of cannibalism, which was an effort to help them to enslave the Caribs and to conquer the land that the Caribs had. But the names which these people call themselves, and we are now going back to them, Kalinago and Garifuna. Now, Kalinago were the original indigenous people who existed in St. Vincent at the time of Christopher Columbus. Later on, not many years after, we began to have escaped African slaves, particularly from Barbados, coming to St. Vincent. And people have pointed out that to get to St. Vincent, all you had to do was to get on a boat, and the trade winds would take you to St. Vincent. African slaves in Barbados realized that if they went to St. Vincent, they would find a home among the Kalinago people who would be willing to protect them. So a lot of these people came from Barbados. There were also some who were captured by the Caribs or the Kalinagos in places like Puerto Rico and other areas and brought to the other islands. Well, most of them settled in St. Vincent. And by the time the British took control of St. Vincent in 1763, the dominant people in St. Vincent were the Garifuna people. There were a few Kalinagos or Yellow Caribs, but these, as in the literature, they are called Black Caribs. But they were the ones who dominated, and they were the ones who carried out the main struggle against the Europeans. And I just want to mention just one or two things that the issue of cannibalism, which was also spread in the textbooks which were used in school. And I say all the time when I speak on this issue that I have vivid memories, some 10 years ago or shortly less, of a lady from Sandy Bay who met me in Kingston and said, just imagine at this time they're still teaching the children in school that their ancestors were cannibals. So, and it was a sort of divide and rule to try and get a division between the original Yellow Caribs or the Kalinagos and the Black Caribs or Garifuna. And this continued for quite a long time. Now, this had an impact on the indigenous people, and for a long time, some people who came from that area and are definitely indigenous people refused to identify themselves as such because of this label of cannibalism, and that went on. Let me just mention in passing too, because this is quite relevant. I think we are all familiar, we all know that in 1797, most of the Garifuna people and some of the Kalinago people were banished or exiled from St. Vincent and sent to Roatan, an area of Honduras. And from Roatan, they then went to Belize, Honduras itself, Nicaragua, and those other areas. So the majority of the indigenous people were sent away from St. Vincent. Those who remained went into the interior, where they tried to live lives isolated from the rest of the population because they know that the authorities were out to get them. And I make all of this to raise the issue of Baliso, because the question of Baliso is one that has been in the air for a long time, in that Baliso, which is privately owned, is up for sale. And the Garifuna people, both in Central America and in St. Vincent, have been asking to have Baliso as a sacred ground, as a museum, or whatever you want to call it, a national park, in honor of their ancestors. I should have mentioned before that after the war, when they were defeated, when some of them surrendered, about a little over 4,000 people were sent to Baliso. And we all know that Baliso is a very small island. When they were ready to be deported to Central America, half of them had died. So there was genocide connected with Baliso. So Baliso is very sacred. Now the argument, and I heard it secondhand, that the Prime Minister was saying about alien land holding license and so on. But we have had occasions when property had been taken over on the grounds of national interest. And I don't know why that same process could not be done with Baliso, but Baliso is a ticklish point for the Garifuna. It's one of the things that brings together the Garifuna from Central America and those in St. Vincent, because their ancestors died there. The final point I want to make is that the work of these indigenous people affected, prevented the colonization of St. Vincent. Now, St. Vincent was colonized in 1763, but the other islands, most of the other islands, St. Vincent and Dominica, and Tobago, were colonized in 1763. Most of the other islands had been colonized since the 17th century. So from the 1640s and 50s, sugar was being produced in Barbados and the Leeward Islands. In St. Vincent, the land was still under the control of the indigenous people. So once they got rid of the indigenous people, what the government did was to take over the lands. And these were considered virgin lands. So out of those lands occupied by the Garifuna people, they made 8 estates: Grand Sable, Montbentic, Langley Park, Rabaca, Lot 14, Waterloo, Orange Hill, and Toroma. And it is significant that within 2 or 3 years after the takeover of those lands and the passing out and sale of those lands as plantations, St. Vincent was, after Jamaica, the second leading exporter of sugar between 1805 and 1827. So that those lands were very valuable. So today when we speak about reparations, those are things which we have to take into account. When you're looking at slave societies, we speak very often of a society with slaves or a slave society. The distinction between them, you could have a society that has slaves, but when you speak about a slave society, everything in that society is organized in the interest of sugar and the planters. So by 1805, after they had taken over land, St. Vincent became not only a place with slaves, but it became a slave society. So that there are a number of things which we need to keep in mind, and I think that we, as Vincentians generally, should support the call for making Baliso a national park or a national museum. Also, there is a lot of work to be done on those persons who remained in St. Vincent, and there are a number of things. We have not done enough research on what was left. For instance, I was surprised at first when I read how they caught treachery in the 1770s. And the way they caught treachery in the 1770s is the same way they're catching treachery today. And a lot of us with great-grandparents and so on, some of the foods they used to make, which we no longer make, and many of us prefer to go to KFC, but these are valuable things, and we pay attention to them only on National Heroes Day. After we have had our Madongo and so on National Heroes Day, we forget everything about it until the next National Heroes Day. So these are just a few remarks I wanted to make, and to compliment the Young Democrats for having this special award for young people, and it is good that it came during the month of March. And it should be a lesson that we need to pay some attention and to recognize and to honor people who have been making this country, both male and female. So thank you for listening, and I hope that the support for reparations and the support for making Baliso a national park would continue and would grow among the Vincentian population. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fraser. Thank you for the lessons, and thank you for encouraging us as a people to always cherish our history and to go forward in a manner that always encourage our youth to be great. Thank you. We move right into our second speaker and to introduce Miss Nisha Hope, I will call on Therese Oliver, our Assistant Secretary, to introduce her to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Nisha Ho is an English and theatre arts teacher and holds a BFA in Creative Arts, Films and Theatre Specials. She is a competent communicator and holds awards from Toastmasters International's Public Speaking in Speech and Evaluation Contest. She is also an actress, director, active producer, and an award-winning playwright. Ms. Hope's dedication to youth development and the advancement of arts and culture in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is notable in her unwavering service to the country. She embraces opportunity to assist in the maintenance of high standards and is committed to the holistic education development to foster wonderful citizens. Please welcome Ms. Nisha Hope.
Thank you. Good evening to everyone, members of the New Democratic Party's executive, you wonderful youths who we're here this evening to honor the Young Democrats for putting off this event. I applaud all of your efforts and your work. My speech is a little different than Dr. Adrian Fraser's. I'm focusing on building our heritage, which is our youth. I believe the children are our future. As a child, when I listened to Whitney Houston bellow these songs out, I cannot sing. I would have started off trying to sing, but I can't. I remember as a child then holding on to the lyrics of those words. And now, as an educator, it is my mantra. According to the UN, a youth ends at age 35. And if you were listening to Dr. Adrian's presentation, he intimated such. And he also stated, which I didn't have the facts until he did mention it, that in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we account, not we, but you all, youth under 35, account for about 65% of our population. And that says a lot. Imagine being at a conference while just discovering your passion and life purpose, only to be told the opportunities that exist for your personal and professional growth, development, expires for you in 2 years. That was me 10 years ago. I was stuck for a good while, sitting, staring into oblivion, next to my younger colleagues, thinking to myself, time is running out. I only have 2 more years. I'm not that young anymore. That, my friends, my young friends, was a serious reality check. However, the most notable accomplishments to date in my life, besides the fact that I'm a wonderful mother and doting grandmother, came after age 35. For the last 10 years or so, I embarked on a journey of self-discovery. I found my passion and I pursued it emphatically. Why? Because I didn't want to be stuck in the rut. You see, for years, I struggled to find my niche. At one point, I felt like I was just living and not existing. My life was this constant cycle. You know, wake up, get ready, go to work, return home, prepare for dinner, prepare for sleep, and then you start all over again, and it's a constant cycle. Nothing much was happening. There was nothing happening for me until one day I remembered I wasn't getting any younger, so I had to get up and get. The psalmist David says in Psalms 127 verse 3 that children are an heritage of the Lord. And Homer says in youth and beauty, wisdom is rare. So if you're an heritage and wisdom is rare, permit me to pour a little into your cup from my wisdom. I'm not even sure if the topic I selected today to share with you is appropriate or it makes sense, because your generation could never be stuck in a rut, can you? With social media, all these social gatherings, party hey, fete day, right? Right? What are young people at? Right, okay. But according to dictionary.com, the phrase to be stuck in a rut simply means to be settled or established in a particular habit or course of action, especially a boring one. But what are some of the signs to tell you that you're stuck? One of the biggest signs to show you that you're stuck in a rut is similar to me, when you just feel as if life is on a negative loop over and over and over again. Every day seems to be the same. You end each day feeling down, and sometimes you even start the day. And can't forget the song from last year, especially now we eating bread and butter. Anyhow, you even might have trouble remembering what day of the week it is. Although my grandfather used to say, if you have trouble remembering what day of the week it is, it's because you're just too happy. And sometimes we are too happy. Another thing, nothing excites you anymore. Nothing challenges you. You can't even remember the last time you felt pure joy. What is it that brings you pure joy as a youth? What do you relish in? For me, it's as simple as lying down on my back and looking up at the sky on a beautiful sunny day, whether it's floating on the water or at the gardens on a blanket. That brings me pure joy. Do you feel as though you're just trying to get through another day? These are all signs of you just being stuck. But as students and young adults, if you identify with these signs, how do you get unstuck? There are several things that you can employ, whether in your daily life or in general, to mitigate these monotony and repetition of a mundane life. But today, I just want you to focus on two things. Two small but important things that everybody can do. I do them too. How many of you, by a show of hand, reflect or do introspection regularly? Anybody? Yeah? Not the youths, just the mature folks. All right? So, introspecting, examining your own thoughts and your own feelings. You may not be doing it in a formal way, but sometimes just thought. Yes? Just like learning history, learning about yourself can help you to prepare for your future. And that's what I'm focused on, the youth, sustainability, and the future. Everything begins and ends with the first law of nature. Can anybody tell me what the first law of nature is? Anybody? No? Self-preservation. Preserving yourself from harm, from destruction, any natural or instinctive tendency to preserve your own well-being. Now, when we say self-preservation, we're not talking about a selfish act. It simply means that as individuals, you ought to prioritize yourself. Mind, body, soul. Because after all, if you don't take care of you, you can't take care of anyone else, right? So the first thing that I'm going to look at is self-evaluation. Ask yourself, what got you here in the first place? If you feel that you're stuck and doing the same thing over and over and over again, what got you here? And if you practice reflection and introspection, you'll be able to acknowledge that there's a problem. You can assess what are some of the triggers or causes which can help you find solutions to those problems. It makes no sense in denying that you have a problem, because we all do. We're human. Identify the decision that you've been avoiding all along. And whatever decision it is, whether it's interpersonal relationship or a task that you have to do, or even a hobby. Sometimes we take up things and say they are hobbies, but we're not good at it and we just stop there for a long while. Anything that is not adding to your life. One of the best ways to reflect and introspect is by journaling. Anybody journals? No? I do. Both in my professional and personal life, and I can attest that journaling really helps. It provides an opportunity for self-talk, identifying negative and positive thoughts. This is where you get to track your symptoms, the signs that your life isn't moving forward, or some of the things that you're doing and progressing. You set your goals and you try and aim for them. The evidence collected, once you go through your writings, will help you to identify your triggers and help you learn better ways to control them. Now, you cannot just get out of a rut in one day. Journaling is not a quick fix, yeah? It is a practice that you have to be doing, and it will help with self-discovery by helping you to make more meaningful choices in life. Please note, you'd have to break things down into bite-sized pieces. Small steps. Focus on one thing, one at a time. Done is far more better than trying to be perfect. The second, which is my personal favorite, is self-care. Besides the regular pampering by going to the spa, I practice mindfulness meditation. Simply put, mindfulness is the ability to rest in the present moment. It is an awareness that emerges from paying attention to your purpose and relaxing in the present. If you unplug from everything and try to reset, life can be put into perspective. The best thing about self-care is that you can do it whenever you feel the need to. You need to remember self-preservation is key. Now, when you're alone, you can practice mindfulness by breathing, playing meditation music, laying on your back with your palms face upwards, and breathing deeply, slowly and deeply, reflecting on anything that brings you pure joy. Running water, water on the roof when the rain comes, anything that brings you pure joy, you can escape. And it's not selfish. Dear youth, dear young Democrats, I implore you to think about your life and what you hope to accomplish in the future. The only time to make change and to get out of a rut is now. And I echo the sentiments of the late Nelson Mandela. Sometimes it falls on a generation to be great. You can be that generation. Let your greatness blossom. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nisha Ho. So we want to say thank you to our two speakers. Before we get into our Youth Award ceremony, I just want you to give a round of applause again for the wealth of knowledge that they give us. Before I invite our first youth hero on stage, I want to share a story, something that happened just today. In the excitement of planning this symposium, this award ceremony, we were all over the place, ordering the awards, contacting the awardees, contacting the donors, going here, collecting the refreshments, doing everything. And in the rush of it this afternoon, Rubina and I, we were in bottom fitters, lower fitters, and we had to go up on a hill to collect something and come back down. And she said, come, she was directing me, because I had to reverse and go up, and you know how it is with reversing. So she said, come back, come. And I kept coming until I got bam. And I realized I had hit the wall. And I want to share something. While it is unfortunate, something stood out to me. If we as a country keep going back and back and back, we too will crash as a people. If we don't honor our youth and take them forward in sports, in culture, in education, in the arts, we as a country will crash. The second thing that happened in the rush of it, we got involved in all of this traffic, and I passed the trophy store and I forgot to collect the awards. And we realized, wow, we have to go back in all that traffic. Now when you think of a trophy, when you think of an award, you think of a treasure. And if you think of our youth as treasures, you will know that we cannot forget the trophies, we cannot forget our youth. If we forget our youth, which are our gems and our treasures, we won't be able to go on. I don't know how we would have gone on with this youth award ceremony without our treasures. And I want to urge all of us as we continue to support the youth, as we continue to support our children, our neighbors, our students, don't leave our trophies behind, else we won't be able to go on as a nation. And then the last thing that happened, when we were coming back, being stuck in traffic, vehicles in front, vehicles behind, we were in a jam. And sometimes when we listen to our budget, we realize we're in a financial jam, we realize the crime situation, we're in a national security jam, all because we are stuck in traffic and there is no movement. We have to always ensure that our young people are constantly moving. If they are stuck in the traffic of depression, of poverty, of crime, then we will have a jam in our country. And we don't want that for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So as you sit here, I want to thank you, especially for being here, to ensure that there is a smooth flow of traffic among our young people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So to the parents who are here, to the teachers, the guardians, the politicians, I just want you to give yourselves a round of applause for supporting our youth. And so I am going to call on our first youth hero, Miss Ashanti Richards. Ashanti, before you even tell them about your greatness, please come forward. Let's give Ashanti a round of applause. So, we reached out to donors and we asked them to sponsor specific awards. We asked them to give generally. But there is one award that I had to give personally. I taught Ashanti in Form 1. Ashanti represented the Barry Secondary School, well, Central Legal Secondary School, formerly known as the Barry Secondary School. At the inter-school sports, she represented us regionally, and she, of course, she was a national athlete. Ashanti's record was only broken this year by another student of the Barry Secondary School in the 1500 meters. So Ashanti left her mark at the inter-school sports. A year ago, Ashanti, during her educational journey, Ashanti got pregnant and she birthed a baby. Just a few months after, Ashanti insisted that she wanted to continue her education. While at the Barry Secondary School sports meet, just a few weeks ago, I heard her name being called to run. Now I'm like, but Ashanti just had a baby a few months ago. She's back on the track, about to blaze. But when they said to start, Ashanti started as the usual athlete, fast, determined, and ready to win. But Ashanti pulled a muscle and she was nowhere in the lead of that race. The Red Crossers came over, and they were ready to get her off. You know, they asked if she was okay, and because she wasn't moving, they were going to take her away. But Ashanti insisted that she is going to finish the race. And Ashanti was the last athlete to end. She limped her way straight to the end of that race. And as I cheered her on, you know, tears came to my eyes. Because I saw not only an athlete finishing a race, but I saw a young woman who was bent on achieving her goals, even though life may not have served her all that she wanted. Now, as a people, sometimes we wait until we have the finished product. We wait until the gold is shining before we can recognize our young people. But I want you to remember that a hero is somebody who is brave and determined. And standing on stage with me is a young woman who is determined to finish her race in school, to finish her race on the track, and to finish her race that St. Vincent and the Grenadines wants to run in order to win with our young people and with our young women. And I want you to give a chance to So I am going to call a woman who belongs to the New Democratic Party, a former senator, Mrs. K. Bacchus-Baptiste, who usually assists, supports, and represents other young women, just to ensure that our female population is healthy socially, emotionally, psychologically, and educationally. And as I present this award to Ashanti, even though it was sponsored by me, I think it is an honor to have somebody like Mrs. K. Bacchus-Baptiste present this award.
Ashanti Richards Youth Hero Award. It's called Perseverance. I am meeting you for the first time, but I'm very moved by your story, and I wish you every success. God bless you. Take this award.
Should I move?
We have another young lady who will receive an award sponsored by Mr. Chester Morgan. Unfortunately, some of our coaches and footballers who had pledged to be here could not because of the fixtures, so they are actually in park right now because the football games are going on. But we have an award for a young lady named Miss Alia Anderson from Barony. Mr. Chester Morgan felt that because of her contribution to sports, especially in Central Leeward, that Alia deserves an award for representing us in track and field, netball, and football, both for the Barony Secondary School and nationally. So, because Ashanti has to leave, Alia has asked Ashanti to collect this award, and I'm going to ask Mr. Fitz-Bramble to present this sports award on behalf of Chester Morgan.
Good afternoon, good evening everyone. Youth Hero Award to Alia Anderson. Excellent performance in sports, sponsored by Chester Morgan. And I suppose you're going to receive it on her behalf. Picture.
We have a young lady from Beckway who is here with us. She is an environmental advocate and she has her own charity group that caters to the health of the environment. I am talking about Miss LaQuinta Peniston from Beckway, who ensures that our beaches, our environment is clean, well kept, and if it is ever abused, that she and her other colleagues will speak out. LaQuinta, thank you for doing that and congratulations. Please come to the stage. Our Assistant Treasurer, Mr. Kevin Daniel, will present this award. Okay, unfortunately, LaQuinta, just 1 minute. There was an issue, but the trophy case is bringing the others. They apparently forgot some. So we'll come back to you. We are still into sports and we are at the Paralympics right now. We are going to recognize an outstanding young man who had St. Vincent and the Grenadines in an uproar when he represented us at the Paralympic Games. I am talking about none other than Mr. Destroy Priest. Destroy is here. He's over here. Destroy is here, not by himself, but with international members of the Paralympic Committee, and there is someone who would like to share some of Destroy's performances, his improvements, and his success with us, and just to tell us about the organization. Please welcome.
Hi, good afternoon, or good evening. Thank you. So, Mr. Dexroy Crease was the very first Paralympian who went to the Paralympic Games in Tokyo. It was supposed to be in 2020, but it happened in 2021. So he made history in that regard. I am the president of the National Paralympic Committee here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and it gives me the opportunity to just say just a few words about what we are about. So, we strive to make a significant contribution to Paralympic sport in St. Vincent and the Grenadines by creating awareness, supporting athletes, and advocating for inclusion and accessibility in sports. Our efforts, I seem to have lost the mic. Okay, I can speak louder though. So, our efforts has helped to raise the profile of Paralympic sport in the country, and we do provide Okay, I can assure you that it doesn't always go right every time, even in sport. So our efforts hopefully have raised the profile of Paralympic sport in the country, and we do provide opportunities for athletes with disabilities to pursue their athletic dreams at the international level. So if you haven't heard about us before, that is who we are, and we continue to support athletes across the sporting spectrum, not only in swimming, but also in flying football and athletics. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And to present this wonderful award to Mr. Dexroy Priest, I'd ask our Assistant Secretary, Ms. Therese Oliver, to present this.
Youth Hero Award to Dexroy Priest, excellent performance in sports.
Thank you, Dexroy, and continue to represent St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Next up, we have a young man who recently bombarded the airways of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We're talking about a 13-year-old entrepreneur who developed his own shoe polish brand. We're talking about lavish shoe polish, and at this moment, please help me welcome Mr. Carla Richards on stage. Mr. Carla Richards hails from Sanssouci, and recently he developed his own shoe polish brand, making shoe polish from tires. It is something that his school is entirely proud of. It is something that his community is proud of, and his mom is here. I can't express to you how happy she was when we reached out and said, "We are giving your son this award." Mom, stand up, please take a bow. Thank you so much for encouraging him. Now we, as the NDP Young Democrats, we believe in supporting our youth. And one of the things that we did, we ordered 100 shoe polish from lavish brand Carla Richards. And the shoe polish will be contributed, it will be donated to schools across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This award was sponsored by our treasurer, Miss Alicia Lavia. She hails from Bedway. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here. I will ask a banking associate to stand here with him, Mr. Kevin Daniel, and I will call on a senior member of the New Democratic Party who was a manager of a bank, who strongly believes in entrepreneurship, who knows about management, and who will be happy to give this award to Mr. Carla Richards. Mrs. Lavon Gibson-Villans.
Carla Richards, it is my honor, my pleasure to present the Youth Hero Award to you for creative entrepreneurship. I can only beg you, don't stop, keep reaching for the stars.
Thank you. And we are still on entrepreneurs. This time to celebrate another outside Bishop's, selling his corn dog every day religiously. I am talking about Mr. Jahaziel Butte. Please join us on stage. Mr. Butte hails from Redemption Champs, and he has developed the brand of selling his corn dogs, the thing that everybody wants to eat. He puts tamarind sauce on it, and he serves our extensions well. What Mr. Butte, that was me. What Mr. Butte does that he probably was not aware of until I messaged him. Mr. Butte has a lot of young males talking about hustling, making use of their positive energy, finding something to do to stay positive, to be a responsible citizen. And Mr. Jahaziel is a role model in our country today. When I contacted him, he was so shocked. He was like, whoa, I can't believe people see my good works. And I said yes, because when I was inviting some of my students, I told them about him, and they were like, oh yeah, you know, he can't bad. And in today's society, where so many of our young males are finding time to involve in crime and in other activities that don't serve our community, we have to find time to celebrate people like Mr. Jahaziel Butte. Jahaziel, thank you, congratulations, keep up the good work. And I think it's only fair that we ask that this award be presented to him by another man, a positive role model, serving the community, encouraging men. And I will ask our Secretary General, Mr. Brenton Smith, to present this award to Mr. Butte.
Youth Hero Award, Jahaziel Butte, Creative Entrepreneurship. Congratulations and continue to do good work. People are looking up.
Respect.
Thank you, Mr. Butte. Now at this moment, we are going to celebrate music in the best way that we can. There is a young man sitting among us. He is sitting right behind me with his Bible. His name is Mr. Eric George. Yes, Eric, hello. Yes. Eric is a musician, one of the best singers you can meet in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He attended the school for children with special needs, and he has always sung his way through the hearts of the students, the hearts of the teachers, and the hearts of our community. He also performs at local shows, he sings in his church, and if you YouTube Eric George, you will see some of his renditions. He has sung The Climb and other songs that will blow you away. And this evening, Mr. Eric George is going to sing for us.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Well, Mr. Jude, I'm thinking out loud by Ed Sheeran.
Yes, please.
Instrumental. Stand up over from the top, please. Hey, stop. Go. When your legs don't work like they used to before, and I can't sweep you off of your feet, will your mouth to remember the taste of my love? Will your eyes still smile from a cheek? And darling, I will be loving you till I'm 17. And maybe my heart has suffered less, heart of 23. I'm thinking about how people fall in love in mysterious ways. Maybe just a touch of the hand. Me, I'm falling in love with you every single day. I just wanna tell you I am. But now, take me into your loving arms. Kiss me all through the light of 1,000 stars. Yeah, place your heart to my beating heart. I'm thinking out loud, baby, we found love right where we are. Stand a verse. With my head's on the dawn in a memory face, and the crowds don't remember my name. When my hands don't play the strings the same way, yeah, I know you will still love me the same. So honey, you so could never grow. Oh, it's evergreen. And baby, you're forever in my mind and memory. I'm thinking about how people fall in love in mysterious ways. Maybe it's all part of the plan. I'll just keep on making the same mistake, hoping that you'll understand. But baby, now, take me into your loving arms. Kiss me under the light of 1,000 stars. Jesus, place your head to my beating heart. I'm thinking out loud, baby, we found love right where we are. Yeah, yeah. La, 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 la. Yeah, yeah. So baby, now, take me into your loving arms. Kiss me under the light of 1,000 stars. Place your head to my beating heart. I'm thinking out loud, baby, we found love right where we are. Baby, we found love right where we are. And we found love right where we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's hear it for Eric George. Excellent. Yes, he's from Eastern Jerusalem. And that is why this award says Youth Hero Congratulations, Eric. And now we have an award for an athlete who has broken records, who has qualified for the Paralympic Games, Mr. Keo Davis. Keo was hospitalized after the inter-school sport yesterday. He had an issue with his knee, so unfortunately he could not make it to this ceremony. But I just want you to know that we also recognize Keo Davis as one of our young heroes. So this award is addressed Youth Hero Award to Keo Davis for excellent performance in sports. Cheers to Keo Davis. And then we move on to a young man who hails from Union Island, Mr. DeAndre Charles. And yes, we have Union Island in the house. DeAndre, please join me on stage. Thank you, DJ. So if you ever go to Union Island and you are looking for the best barber that you can meet, it means that you have to ask for DeAndre. Now, he started his barbering as a student at the Union Island Secondary School. So when you talk about student entrepreneurs, students with skills, we are talking about DeAndre. So when you, yes, Union Island in the house. So when we talk about education and we make it our business to emphasize that we need to ensure that children understand that we value the technical skills, and that is why it should be integrated into our school's curriculum. We are talking about products like DeAndre Charles. He was also an athlete at his school. He is a musician. He plays in his church, and he does barbering at his home in Union Island, and he comes up on a monthly basis to do barbering on mainland St. Vincent. This is a young man. When I checked around in Union, I said, can you tell me of somebody who is outstanding? And they said, there's somebody named DeAndre, and they sent me his Instagram page. So I went even further, and I asked teachers at the Union Island Secondary, and they told me exactly why he needs to be recognized. Let's give DeAndre a round of applause. And so his award is Inspiration to Youth. And I'm going to ask another young man who sits on our executive, Mr. Andy Baptiste, to present this award to DeAndre.
Good afternoon. Youth Hero Award, DeAndre Charles. Inspiration to Youth. Congratulations.
Thank you, DeAndre. Please keep up the good work. And as a youth who recognize the value of creative arts, we could not have a Youth Heroes Award without including our creatives. So today we are recognizing Mr. Omaro Omohefner Harrington, who usually takes issues that are in our society and he makes light of it on social media using his creativity. So when we feel burdened and sometimes we are angry, we are upset, Omo takes it a step down, a notch down, so that we can relax as a people. And the creativity in his satire, in his drama on social media, has allowed many Vincentians Omar Hefner Harrington for his social media creativity and his use of art. And now we have an award that goes to a footballer, and I will ask Ms. Rubina Stevens to collect this on his behalf. He has asked that she didn't want to receive it. I am talking about a young man, Shandell Samuel. He hails from Niu. Shandell started playing with the national football team of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the year 2000. And he only stopped playing football for St. Vincent in 2016. So we're talking about a young man who has represented us for 16 years. And to date, he is the only footballer who still holds the record of scoring the most goals ever in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We are talking about Shandell Samuel, and I will ask Mr. Noel Dixon to come and present this award for us.
Shandell Samuel. It's really great to see you presenting this trophy to your collecting on behalf of OK. I wanted to tell him, I say that he must continue to strive towards being a key footballer even in the future. Youth Hero Award, Shandell Samuel, outstanding contribution to football in SVG, a key player.
Thank you. And I forgot to mention that even though he doesn't play anymore, he is now coach of the Lady Football Club and the coach of the Under-23 national football team. So he has transitioned and continues to represent the Grenadines. And now call again Mr. Quentin Peniston, our environmental advocate who hails from Medway, who ensures that we as a people are not only taken care of physically, but that our environment is also taken care of so that we can be a healthier people and our environment can be preserved. LaQuinta, congratulations. And I'm going to ask Mr. Bernard Wiley, one who capitalizes on environmental studies, to present this award.
Environmental advocate. It's a pleasure to present this award.
Thank you. It is good when our seniors pass over to our juniors. We see that our society is developing. We can't really go forward unless we learn and we dwell on the wisdom of those who have gone before us and who are still here, teaching us from what they have learned. Thank you, Mr. Wiley. And now we call Miss Yukisha Brown. She lives in Georgetown, and Yukisha spent her time contributing to the development of the church. And we know the church is an institution of our society that keeps us in order, that keeps us morally checked, that keeps us as a people together. Yukisha runs the social media page of her church. Yukisha acts as the secretary. She manages the equipment, and Yukisha also preaches at her church. Yukisha, thank you for developing the church. Thank you for being a role model. And I want you to come on stage so that you can be recognized. And I'm going to ask ask Dr. Adrian Fraser to present this award to Yukisha.
Youth Hero Award to Yukisha Brown, Service to the Church, sponsored by Annis Mama Butcher.
Thank you, and Yukisha, we just want you to have a picture with the granddaughter of Annis Mama Butcher, who sponsored that award. She's right on stage. Please, Rubina, let's have a picture for your grandmother who sponsored this award. Thank you. Thank you, congratulations, Yukisha. Keep up the great work, and thank you, Annis Mama Butcher. And now we move to recognizing a young man, Mr. Emmanuel Kwashi. This award was sponsored by Ms. Veronica John. Can you please go on stage to give the award? Is his niece here? Is Emmanuel? Yes, Alyssa, she's right here. Emmanuel is a young man who is from Beckway. He spent several years at the Boys Liberty Lodge. He also worked his way up from what we call bottom of the barrel to now having a PhD and being a lecturer at the University of the West Indies Northern Campus. My mom said that she wanted to give this award, and she wanted to give it to somebody who is as outstanding and who struggled but overcame his struggles like Emmanuel. We are talking about somebody who grew up with a parent who is mentally ill, and the challenges that he faced were great. And so we just want to recognize Mr. Emmanuel Kwashi for his hard work, and tonight his niece will receive this award on his behalf.
Good evening. Congratulations to Mr. Emmanuel Kwashi. Excellence through adversity. Congratulations on behalf of
Thank you and congratulations. And now we have an award by one of our speakers, Ms. Nisha Hope, and this award goes to Ms. Kimara Bracken for her artistic creativity. Tonight, Ms. Bracken, her mom Maureen Bracken, will receive this award on her behalf. Cheers to creativity, cheers to art, congratulations. Kimara, keep up the great work and continue painting your way through life. Thank you, congratulations, Kimara. And we are getting down to our final bit. We have Mr. Monroe Ford from Milo, who is receiving the award for community development. Mr. Milo has a charity that ensures that his community is well taken care of, that ensures that he stands in the gap. And tonight, this award was sponsored by a member community, and he wanted this award to go in the name of the Honorable Terence Oliver. So in Terence's absence, since he had a funeral and he really couldn't make it, I will ask Terence Oliver, his daughter, to present this award to Mr. Monroe Ford's representative. I think his daughter is supposed to be here to collect. If not, maybe she could not have made it. But cheers to Monroe Ford for community development. We have an award for Miss Aria Lady Ferdinand for political activism. She served on the executive of the NDP Young Democrats for a number of years, and she is one who is never afraid to share her political views, to be involved in political activism, and we just want to say cheers to young people who are bold enough to get involved in politics. Aria, cheers. She recently left the country for a seminar. She is representing St. Vincent and the Grenadines right now on some business, so she could not be here. And then we have a young man, Mr. Joshua Badu. Mr. Joshua is one who doesn't take inclusion, social inclusion, and mental health for a joke. He means that if we must progress as a society, we have to take care of the mental health of every person, which means that we have to ensure that in every part of our society, whether it be in the classroom, in the church, in our society, that everybody is accepted, that everybody is treated equally, and he accepts absolutely no discrimination. I just want to say cheers to Joshua Badu. Thank you for doing your great work, and I do hope that more young people will step up and say no to discrimination. Youth Hero Award. Thank you, DJ. Youth Hero Award, Mr. Joshua Badu, Social Inclusion and Mental Health Advocacy. Thank you. And then we have an award that is shaped like a map for a young lady who we believe strives to develop St. Vincent and the Grenadines in very simple ways. Her name is Miss Rolisa Samuel, and she is one who ensures that every single job opportunity that exists, she shares it on social media, she reaches out to young people, she encourages them to start businesses. Unfortunately, she had an overwhelming order and she could not be here. Rolisa chairs Youth Hero Award to Rolisa Samuel, Spirit of Haimuna. And our two last awardees, they are a part of our culture industry. I have with me Mr. Zavi Kaspaji Morris, who is an artist and who was actually selected as a young trending most and youngest trending artist in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He won the cultural competition a few years ago. He was the youngest competitor and he won. Cheers, Kaspaji. I'll ask Mr. Kevin Daniel to come and present this award. What we have here, yes, we have to give some music for our artists. What we have here is a contribution to his studio fees as he prepares for this carnival. This is the NDP Young Democrats supporting youth culture. Casper D. And our final cultural awardee is Mr. Darren Magical Rouse, who is one of our youngest persons in St. Vincent and the Grenadines to have won the Power Soca Monarch. He went up against man like Fireman, Hooper, Mega, Triple, Dog, and all of the other big ones in the industry. Magical made his magical appearance and knocked them all out, winning Power Soca Monarch. Again, we have a contribution to his studio fees as he prepares for this carnival. I'll ask Ms. Nisha Hope to also present this, as she is a cultural person and a creative.
So congratulations to Magical Darren Rouse on this award. And he's representing him, and it's not me. Okay, say congratulations to me.
Thank you, congratulations, Magical. Now, even though he couldn't be here because he has a baby and he had to perform in Bible, we still had to recognize Magical. And there you have it, our Youth Heroes 2023. Thank you, congratulations, and we just want to wish you all the very best. The New Democratic Party of Democrats, we are here for you, we support you, and we will always be pushing you. Now, to give us the vote of thanks before we have some refreshments, is our Assistant Treasurer, Mr. Kevin Daniel. As soon as he's done, we say our final thank yous, and we eat and be merry.
Yes, good night everybody. It's good now. Yes, we want to thank everybody for coming out. Persons would say that the youth are the future, but we believe that the youth are now. And that's how we get the country moving forward. So thank you very much for coming out. All the featured speakers, everybody who contributed, thank you.
Thank you. And just to recognize and thank our featured speakers, we have two little tokens of our appreciation. So Dr. Adrian Fraser and Ms. Nisha Hope, please step forward as we thank you with these tokens. So we'll present to Dr. Adrian Fraser first, and Ms. Rubina Stevens will do that, and then I will present to Ms. Nisha Hope. Thank you, Dr. Fraser and Ms. Nisha Hope. Thank you. So we are going to enjoy some light refreshments. We are going to mingle with our awardees, our youth heroes. I'm so happy to meet you. It is my honor. And if you can give me your signature, I'll be so pleased, heroes. So thank you. Cheers. And we're going to take some pictures, enjoy the music, and enjoy the food. Long live youth development in St. Vincent and the